The eternal examination of Kairos University was not meant to be completed. For 3,000 years, it had served as a philosophical exercise, a humbling reminder to students across the galaxy that some knowledge transcended mortal understanding. The test contained questions about paradoxes with no solutions, mathematics that folded in on themselves, and ethical scenarios designed to break minds that attempted them. Then Jake Thompson, a human exchange student from Earth, finished it in 6 hours. Professor Vexnari's 12 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of extreme distress among his species. This is impossible. You must have cheated. Jake looked up from his sandwich, confused. Cheated? On a practice test? Why would I do that? Practice test. Professor Zilthan's crystalline form resonated with disbelief. The eternal examination is our most sacred academic tradition. Scholars dedicate their entire lives to attempting just the first section. Oh! Jake took another bite of his sandwich. Well, it wasn't that hard once you realized the trick. The assembled faculty fell silent. The atmospheric processors could be heard cycling in the background. What trick? Professor Mortgul asked, his tentacles curling with anticipation. Jake shrugged. Every question has multiple correct answers depending on your frame of reference. The test isn't asking for the answer. It's asking for your answer and why you believe it. It's basically a personality test dressed up as academics. The professors exchanged glances that transcended species barriers. They all shared the same thought. How did a Deathworlder see what millennia of scholars had missed? Professor Vexnari pulled up Jake's responses on the holo display. Question 1. If time is infinite but space is finite, where does tomorrow live? Jake's answer. In the same place as yesterday, in our heads. Next question. You dismissed the fundamental paradox of temporal existence in 11 words. Professor Zilthan's form flickered with agitation. Look, Jake said, finishing his sandwich. On Earth, we have something called test anxiety. You learn pretty quick that overthinking kills you on exams. Sometimes the answer really is that simple. Professor Mortgul scrolled to the mathematics section. This equation has been unsolvable for 0, Jake interrupted. The answer is 0. If you actually try to solve it instead of assuming it's unsolvable, you'll notice it's just a really complicated way of writing nothing. Someone was definitely messing with you when they wrote that. The statement hung in the air like heresy. The founder of Kairos University, the legendary philosopher-mathematician Kairos himself, had created that equation. Are you suggesting, Professor Vexnari said slowly, that our founder was pranking us? Jake laughed. Dude, absolutely. This whole test reads like something my physics professor would write after too much coffee and a bad breakup. Half these questions are just testing if you're brave enough to call bullshit. The ethics section was even worse. Jake had answered the infamous trolley problem of infinite recursion with, pull the lever, then fix the broken track system that keeps putting people in danger. This is an infrastructure problem, not a philosophy problem. Professor Ilana, who had remained silent until now, finally spoke. Her species communicated through color changes, and she was cycling through shades of bewilderment. Mr. Thompson, do you understand what you've done? Entire civilizations have based their philosophies on attempting to solve these questions. Yeah, about that. Jake rubbed the back of his neck. A human gesture the professors had learned indicated embarrassment. Have you guys considered that maybe that was the point? Not to solve them, but to keep thinking about them. On Earth, we have these things called koans. Questions designed to break you out of normal thinking patterns. But you solved them, Professor Mortgul protested. No, I answered them. There's a difference. The test never asked for solutions, it asked for responses. You've all been so focused on finding the right answer that you never realized there wasn't supposed to be one. It's testing confidence, not knowledge. The professors huddled together, their various forms of communication creating a cacophony of clicks, colors, and subsonic hums. Finally, they turned back to Jake. If what you're saying is true, Professor Vexnari began carefully, then the eternal examination is A 3,000-year-old joke that everyone took too seriously? Yeah, pretty much. That day, HFY University experienced something unprecedented. Collective enlightenment followed immediately by collective embarrassment. The human student had not only completed their impossible test, but had revealed it was never impossible at all, just misunderstood. The examination was retired the next day. In its place, they instituted something far more challenging. A simple note that read, "Question everything, especially this note." Jake Thompson received his degree and a standing offer to return as a professor. He politely declined, saying he had a final exam in advanced procrastination back on Earth that he'd been putting off for 3 years, and it was finally time to fail it properly. The professors still aren't sure if he was joking. Retry Claude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.